We have two guest presenters today that I would like to introduce. Becky and Jesse are both from American Red Cross. And as soon as I am done talking, I will turn it over to them. They will put their presentation up on the screen and we can sit back and enjoy. Becky Tiles is the volunteer partner for Senior Disaster Program Manager at the American Red Cross. She lives in Oshkosh and taught special education in the public schools for 35 years. She has been involved with the Red Cross for more than 10 years, including assisting with disasters, including floods, fires, and tornadoes. Part of her mission is to help keep people safe during and after a disaster event. Jesse is also the Regional Sheltering Program Lead and is a happy-go-lucky ARC volunteer in the Northeast Wisconsin. He works with the Armed Forces and Disaster Cycle Services Division. And a very interesting fact about Jesse is his favorite color is purple. So thank you again for being here today, everyone. I will mute my microphone and turn my camera off. Fred, welcome. Kurt, welcome. I see you both here. If you are interested, turn your cameras off at this time, and I will turn the presentation over to Becky to let her share her screen. Thank you, everyone.
You're on mute, Becky.
Right away. Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. Jesse and I are just real excited to be here today to present this Be Red Cross Ready disaster preparedness presentation for you. We do encourage participation. As Sarah said, we will ask that you put your comments in the chat box. That's the little dialog box. You can click on that and you'll get a little area at the bottom where you can type. You can also raise your hand. You should have a little hand, and if you click that, Sarah will be able to see that your hand is raised. And when we get a break, then we will ask her to share those questions. So we'll get started with this. I'm going to ask before I even turn the presentation on, because this is a preparedness and safety presentation, I would like you to look around and identify your best emergency exit from wherever you are. Do you know how you would escape your location if you needed to right now? So just take that thought in mind. I even keep that in mind when I'm in my car and when I'm in a store or anything like that. So it's something interesting. So let's get started. This presentation is called Be Red Cross Ready. Prepare so you can protect. This is the preparedness essentials part. We'll start with a little video.
How prepared are you? From fast-moving wildfires to slow-moving hurricanes, crippling winter weather to dangerous heat waves. From powerful tornadoes to devastating earthquakes, record flooding, destructive home fires, and many more unexpected hazards. Hazards are inevitable, but with the right kind of preparation, you can lessen their impact and make a difference. How prepared are you to protect what matters most? Most people say they're not prepared, but that they want to be. And others have started to prepare, but don't know what steps to take next. That's why we created the Be Red Cross Ready program. We'll provide the instruction, information, and experiences you need to be prepared to protect what you care about most. Gain knowledge and skills from Be Red Cross Ready preparedness experts in real time. We'll show you what hazards affect your community and tell you what you can do before, during, and after a disaster occurs so that you are ready to take action. And we'll practice ways to stay safe. Just by being here, you've taken the first step, because when you are prepared, you can protect what's most important to you. Prepare so you can protect yourself, your family, your community. Be Red Cross ready. Prepare so you can protect.
That's a great little video. You know, the fact is that disasters happen, and they are going to happen often. They're going to happen without warning, and they can happen anywhere at any time. Every year, across communities across the United States face disasters. There's hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, winter storms. There's wildfires that burn thousands of square miles. Boy, last year we really saw that. And mostly home fires that impact thousands of households every year. So let's take a look at our area in Wisconsin. What types of hazards do we most likely face in our area? Take a look at the list. And if you could type an answer in the chat or raise your hand, perhaps we can get a couple answers. Don't be afraid. Participation is good.
Well, Becky, today the most common answer definitely is winter storms. Winter storms, house fires, winter storms. I think everybody's looking outside and can see what we are living in right now. Sometimes tornadoes, frostbite. Ooh, there's a good answer.
I like that. Those are great answers. We're looking at winter, definitely. Okay. Well, in Wisconsin, you know, home fires, definitely. We are on a fault line. We could have an earthquake. We do have floods, tornadoes. We don't get extreme heat, but there are situations where heat is a problem. We do get thunderstorms, winter storms, and the chance of wildfires. In our region, past experience tells us that we face a number of hazards that can have a huge impact on individuals and on our communities. I was thinking of an incident in July of 2019 where the straight line winds and the tornado went through. 88,000 people were without power. 88,000. That's a lot of people without power over a series of days. So it is something that we should be thinking about. And really, it's up to you to be ready. In any of the disasters that we've talked about, a lot of people assume that someone else is going to be there to help. However, resources just aren't there to support everyone immediately, especially in a bigger event. The first responders, the disaster organizations, our government agencies, and even hospital emergency rooms, you know, they do their very best, but on an average, these groups are staffed and prepared for normal day-to-day operations. And resources may be limited during a disaster if there was no warning. The truth is that we really will have to depend on ourselves first. Think about that. Why? Well, there's a lot of reasons why. Because, for instance, with this snowstorm, roads may be impassable, or a tornado would cause the same thing. Utilities may be unavailable or may be in a dangerous situation. The hospitals and first responders can be overwhelmed. And if you think about it, banks, grocery stores, gas stations, pharmacy, Schools and workplaces could be closed for days. So you might not have access to things that you might need. You might also need to help others, such as members of the people in your household, or perhaps neighbors, or those who you might know that have functional or access needs. But don't count on help right away. But you can prepare. So all of us can and should be prepared to help ourselves and the people in our households. Will the preparation be perfect? Probably not. But will preparation make things quick and easy or painless? Again, maybe not. But planning and preparing will help you to be safer and to recover more quickly. So take a moment to think about what it means to be prepared. And maybe if you want to take a minute to type something in the chat, what do you think of when you think of being prepared? Take a minute and do that.
First aid training, water,
Oh, wonderful. Water.
water, food, lots of extra food,
Good.
supplies when available. Becky, I think of my grandparents who had stocks of shelves in their basement and had lots of food in their basement.
Yeah, and that was canned food and you could eat that. You know, are you thinking about food that needs to be cooked? If you have canned food in tin cans, can it be opened? So there's
extra medication.
Yes.
Valuable papers. That's a great one. Whoever typed that in. Thank you very much. That's an awesome one. A flashlight. Yes. And
Wow.
knowing where the flashlights are. That's always a.
And the batteries.
Yes, extra batteries. Someone just typed that in. And your car keys, too. Extra car keys, or knowing where your car keys are in the midst of a bat. B-A-T. That's a good one.
Well, it breaks a window pretty easily.
That's
okay, awesome. So, you know, when we are prepared, we can begin to take protective actions to be safe. And we can start to think about reacting in the right ways. And we can begin to adapt to tough challenges. You know, the worse the storm, the longer it takes for the electricity to come back on. But we do want to be able to quickly recover from those difficulties. So in order to be Red Cross ready, what do we need to do to be prepared? Well, we're going to try to talk about three things. And I'm going to turn it over to Jesse in a minute so he can tell you. Those three things are get a kit. Get a kit. Your kit should contain supplies that you're going to need. And that's easy to carry. And you're going to want to make a plan and identify the steps that you'll take to respond to each different kind of disaster. And you're going to want to try to stay informed and learn about how to get information about disasters. So we're going to take a look at each of these in a little more detail, and I'm going to turn it over to our happy-go-lucky Jesse. Jesse, take it away.
I love it when you say that. Hi, everyone. My name is Jesse. Like they said, I'm your happy-go-lucky volunteer here in northeastern Wisconsin. I love the introduction earlier. One thing they didn't tell you is that when I was a youth, I used to be a scout. And when I was older with my sons, I was a scout master. So nothing is more important to me when talking about things like this than just being prepared. Will it fix everything? No, but it will mitigate most of the issues that we do have. And it will definitely help with our recovery if we think about what we're doing before it happens. So I'm going to go into Get a Kit, which is one of my favorites. So if a disaster does strike in your community, you might not have access to food, water, electricity, gas, a medical facility, or even something as simple as a drugstore. So preparing for a disaster kit for your household is an uber important step to keep everyone as safe and as healthy as possible. I like to have at least 2 kits on hand. One is going to be my household kit. Now, I keep mine in a big plastic tub in my hallway closet, and I'll get to that in a second. This should keep you good for at least a week. This might contain things, and we're all different. So we're all going to have kind of different things in there. But for at least a week, and I like to keep all the basics in there. The reason I keep it in a plastic tub in the hallway is because if I am stuck at home, I can use it here, or if it's a not fast emergency, such as you see a flood coming. This is something you can just grab with you when you're going out and throw it in your car and be good with. The other is a go bag. I love my go bags. I also keep that in my closet. It is a backpack specifically set up for 3 days. So I will have 3 days of food, water, basic medical, and everything like that. You customize your kits to meet everyone's personal needs and the disasters that are common to your areas. When I say that, I mean, for example, Wisconsin, I'm looking out my window, it's beautiful, it's snowing. So I usually keep an extra pair of gloves and socks in my bag. Arizona, of course, might be different. So each bag is a little bit different. Now, to build your kit, think about what you use on a daily basis and what you might do if those resources were limited or just plain old not available. We saw that recently with our pandemic. Tissue paper was impossible to find, for example. But you always start with your basics. You want food, water, clean air. I know it sounds kind of weird, but one of my boys is asthmatic, so that's important. And any life-sustaining items that your household might need to maintain their health, safety, and independence. Like I said, we're all a little bit different, so it's going to be customized. Always non-perishable, easy to prepare food items. For example, for me, I love Cliff Bars. They're soft, they last forever, they're compact, and they're high in calories. A manual can opener. Ms. Tile said earlier, canned food does not go bad if it's kept right, but you can't get to it unless you have a can opener. And always water. That goes back to our 3-3-3. As humans, we're kind of limited. We have 3 minutes of air. We can deal without water for 3 days. We can deal without food for 3 weeks. So water is a big one. And remember, you may be without electricity, and you may only have the amount of water that you have stored. Now, here's a quick question. How much water do you think each one of us needs every day? Anybody?
1 gallon.
1 gallon. 1 gallon minimum per day. And that's going to be half for consumption and half for cleaning. You will also want a flashlight and a battery-powered or hand-cranked radio. Why do we need a radio? Because if we're out and about, we don't know what's going on. I have a nice little hand-cranked one. I love that one because it also charges my battery in my phone and has a light and all sorts of other like neat little stuff on it. And if possible, have an NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association. That's kind of a mouthful. You might also want to think about emergency notifications from your local emergency services. We'll talk a little bit about that later. Extra batteries, a first aid kit, 7-day supply of medications and medical items. I cannot stress how important that is. Copies of prescriptions, dosage, treatment information. Someone mentioned earlier about copies of important papers. Yes, super important. Multi-purpose tools. I love my little tools. Sanitation and personal hygiene items. Copies of personal documents we touched base on. Current digital photos of loved ones. One thing our class does not touch on are coping skills. A lot of us, even those who are in the field for years, we still get scared when we go out to disasters and different emergencies. I think it's personally really, really important to have something special in your bag or your kit. For me, it's a teddy bear. Please don't tell anybody that. Let's keep it between us. But yes, always have something special with you, just to remind you of home. Cell phone and charger, household member and emergency contact information. We will touch base on that later too. Extra cash. Most people these days, especially me, I don't keep a lot of cash on me. But in a big emergency, there are going to be no ATMs. There are going to be no banks. So always a little extra cash hidden away is uber important also. At least one emergency blanket. I'm kind of finicky. I love my excuse me, big felt ones. But they do sell those little silver emergency bags. Always good to have on hand, fits right in your pocket. And another weird one are maps of the area. If things happen and things go down, you cannot rely on your cell phone. You cannot rely on Google Maps. So it's good to know where you are or where you're going. And the big thing on this is please don't feel overwhelmed by the list I just gave you. Preparedness takes a little while. Be patient with that. Be patient with yourself. Start small and just do baby steps to get where you want to go. Eventually, like I said, we're all a little bit different. So start with water and a couple of Cliff Bars and maybe a basic first aid kit, and then build your kits up as you go. There is no huge hurry on this, but don't be panicked by it either. And don't make, if we have pets, I personally don't. I have a robot vacuum. It's much easier to take care of. But we all love our pets. They're all family members. So please don't forget to make a kit for your pets also. That would just be food, water, a play toy, because when you evacuate, they're going to go with you. And no matter what's in your kit, it's important that everything works when something does happen. Check the expiration dates on your food at least twice a year. Replace your batteries. And replacing it just might be out of date or expired. Now we're going to customize your kit. We talked about the essentials in your kit. Now we need to talk about how you might need to customize your kit based on specific needs of your household and on the types of emergencies that might happen in your area. For example, there are weather radios, there are text displays, and flashing alerts so that you can stay informed, even if you have difficulty hearing, which I wish I did with my neighbors some days. For example, I'm sorry. So what other things, just a quick question, what other things might you want to add based on specific needs of your household? Like I mentioned, we're all a little different, so we all need different things. Let's see if we can get some fun ones. For me, for example, it's going to be Skittles. I just love Skittles.
That's not essential, Jesse.
It is for me, Miss Becky.
Jesse, maybe you mentioned this, but personally, my family, I need to make sure we have our inhalers with us. And that's something that we don't always include in our medication list, but we need to brought along.
You know, and it's amazing how many people actually forget about stuff like that. So important, yet it just kind of overlooked when people are running around. And that's why we're having this little presentation today. Just kind of a friendly reminder to everyone that these are really, really important, especially in this day and age. We never know what's going to happen. Our weather has been really, well, I'm looking now, I love the snow. So I'm looking at going, I love this. Yeah, but really good responses. You always want to be able to store what you need in your kits. And I say kits because it's plural. I have at least 3. So collect the following items, you know, as appropriate from around your home as soon as you become aware of potential disaster if you need to evacuate. I prefer to have that done beforehand. But yeah, things like medical supplies, syringes, commeters, diabetic testing strips, lancets, ostomy bags, catheters, inhalers. If you undergo routine treatments, for example, or receive regular services, you really need to talk to your doctor about their disaster plans. Weirdly enough, maybe not weirdly enough, Every agency, every hospital has what's called an EAP. That's going to be an emergency action plan. So if you are doing regular treatments, please contact them and see what they can do, or just give you information about what that's about. Assistive or adaptive devices, including supplies for service animals. I personally walk with a cane. I call it my boomstick. I fall down and go boom. So that's kind of something I need if I'm ever worn out. And I always have at least 2 or 3 running around. Communication boards and tables. Those are basically just lists of who, what, where, when, why. Baby supplies, if you have little ones. I have grandkids these days. They have their own little set of supplies. Pet supplies, of course, we touch base on that. And always, always an extra set of vehicle keys and house keys. I can't stress that enough. You lose your keys, it makes for a really bad day.
Jesse, can I interrupt for a second? And can you or Becky talk about some sort of water filtration system, knowing how difficult it is to keep fresh water? Is it a common practice or recommended to have some sort of water filtration system?
That's a great question. And, you know, it really depends on where you're at. But I do have 2 separate answers for that. One, you can actually purchase little water bottles that have filtration systems in them. These are really good enough to where you could actually dip the water bottle into a chlorine pool, take it out, and it will filter out the chlorine for you. Or they have these inexpensive straws that you can also purchase that have filtration systems in them. And something that's really nice to have. Great question. I have one of those in my go bag. I forget about it because I never use it. Yeah, great question. Yes, there are inexpensive ways to do that. They also have pills that you can purchase to dump in, like when you're a kid camping. Or at the very least, you could probably boil whatever water you find. So yeah, good question. Some of the other things that you might want to think about while we're on that subject is water filtration. Maybe a whistle in case you get stuck somewhere. A respirator, especially like in the California fires and stuff, that was super important. Matches to start a fire, rain gear, towels, work gloves, tools and supplies for securing your home. This goes down to more or less the coast when you have to board up during hurricanes and stuff. Always extra clothing. I mentioned earlier, socks and gloves. Plastic sheeting. I go to the dollar store and I buy a couple of dollar tarps to put in my bag. Simple and easy. Keep you safe and at least dry. Duct tape. I am a huge fan of both duct tape and WD-40. One that makes things stick, one that makes things good to have. Scissors come in handy. Bleach for cleaning things. Hand sanitizer usually works better these days. It's more convenient. Entertainment items. This goes back to your coping skills, how you deal with things. I always keep a book with me. I love to read. James Patterson is one of my new favorite authors. If you get a chance, please look him up. Blankets and sleeping bags. Sleeping bags are kind of cumbersome, but blankets will work, especially those little ones. And something we really don't have to worry about here, but sunscreen and like bug repellent, especially in the summer. These will just provide additional protection from the elements and help you cope and deal with the recovery. A kit for everywhere. I'm a huge fan of this one. Since you don't know where you're going to be when a disaster occurs, always think about a kit and supplies for both your work and your vehicles. Some of us might just do volunteers. Some of us do volunteer and work. Kits for work should be in one container, like a little backpack or a bag, and just be one of those grab and go bags. In case you're evacuated, have some food and water in the kit. Also be sure to be comfortable. Walking shoes are super important, especially when you're out and about. A kit for your vehicle is important in the event that you ever get stranded. Now, I mentioned I was, or maybe I didn't, I'm up from Colorado. So if you ever get stranded in the mountains, in the snow, and nobody is around for hours and hours, you kind of want to be prepared for that. I always keep one in my truck, even though I'm here. It should contain things like toolkits, cables, flares. I keep candles because one candle will be able to warm the cab up, for the whole night if you really need to, especially this time of year. So I just want to, that's super important to me, especially looking at the snow that we have. All right, I will turn it back over to you, Miss Tiles. Hopefully I didn't ramble too long.
Oops. There we go. Thank you, Jesse. No, there's so much good information in putting those kits together that it's good to spend some time on it. So any questions before we move on? Is there anything anybody has questions about, or comments or anecdotes?
Feel free to type them in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, this is a great opportunity to participate. Becky, I always heard that you should keep flip-flops underneath your bed. So in the middle of the night, if you had to leave your house, especially on a day like today, you at least had something on your feet.
Well, in February of 1982, when I had my house fire, I did not have slippers or flip-flops under my bed. And it was cold and snowy outside. So it was very dangerous.
Oh, we do have a question. I have a question, and from Kurt. Kurt, would you like to unmute yourself or type it in the chat?
Yeah, I have a question. I live over by Marathon Park, and a couple of years ago during the summertime, we had high winds that came through, and it knocked out some of the transformers around here. So we had no electricity. And in our area, because there were so many of them knocked down, it took almost 2.5 to 3 days before we had electricity. And now looking at the weather like we're going to have in the next 7 or 8 days, I've always been concerned about if we're going to have brutally cold weather and I lose the electricity, not only is I'm going to have problems with the food, but my furnace with the blower and the electronic ignition are not going to work. I wonder what you recommend as far as a backup. The main concern is heat. What am I going to do to make sure that the pipes don't freeze, that my house plants don't all die? I just wondered about having the electricity go out for an extended period of time during the winter.
Yeah, that's a good question, Kurt. And that is always, losing power is always a huge consideration when it's cold. You can consider a generator, gas-powered generator. We're going to talk about those a little bit. They can be very hazardous to do that. In some cases, your neighborhood might be evacuated to a place that does have power. And if you especially need power for perhaps medical needs, you again should talk with your physicians and make plans ahead of time. What am I going to do if the power goes out? That's another thing about being informed, is having the information about what's going on in your community. And if the power's out, the radio doesn't work, and that sort of thing. So having a crank radio so you can find out what is happening. Are there warming shelters being set up? Maybe there isn't a lot you can do with your house, and it happens. Pipes freeze, pipes break, and there isn't much we can do about that until the power is restored. But it is good to think about.
Yeah, because I mean, a generator would be okay, but I'll have the flashlight and I'll have the radio, but I'm not going to be able to get that furnace to run. So do you guys recommend any kind of a heat source? I don't need, it's a small place. I don't need to have something to heat a 5-bedroom house. But do you guys have any suggestions as far as a heat source? Candle's not going to be enough for me. I'm not going to be sitting in my car. So, but right. And I'm not concerned about a generator because I'll just have to put up with not having a lot of electricity and lights. I'll use candles, and I'll use flashlights, and I'll use a portable radio.
Hi, Kurt. Yeah, good question. I'm up from Colorado, and I was there for a little over 20 years. I used to teach skiing and snowboarding, and one of the first things I ever taught my kids were layers, and as far as clothing, because in Colorado we lived, I think it was 9,300 feet up. We were in a really small little town, and we did lose power, and we're snowed in for weeks at a time. So I've learned a whole lot about just layering up on your clothes. You don't want to get warm enough to actually make you sweat, and expend your bodily fluids or anything. But that would be my biggest suggestion for that. Just have extra socks and gloves. And if it does happen, and most of the time during winter storms, it does happen. So just keep as warm as you can and move around. Keep that blood flowing.
That's
Thank
a
you,
great
Jesse.
idea, Jesse.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. This is Sarah again. Just a couple of comments in the chat feature right now. A reminder to keep vehicle gas in your vehicle, because if you ever have to evacuate right away, you don't want to end up with a car that has no gas. I'm culprit of that. My gas tank is always on empty. Thank you, everyone. A suggestion to turn off the water to your house too, if you know that you have no electricity for a while and you're going to be evacuated. Moving to the basement, if you have one, or at least your lower level, so that you are conserving the amount of heat in your house. And Becky or Jesse, can you talk about bug out bags and supply kits that you can buy? John, I might need you to come off of mute on that one. But specifically, what do you think of bug out bags and supply kits?
Well,
Sure.
Jesse, I'm going to let you talk about that because you just talked about Go Kits.
I know, and I love it. It's part of that service to the armed forces. It's something that's ingrained in me. There are a lot of great companies out there that literally will sell you a bug out bag complete. They're usually, you can buy either 3-day bags, a week bag, or 2-week bags. And basically they come with everything you might need, such as a small tent, food and water for that whole time. They will come with emergency tools, and a little tent and stuff. So, and I could give you a company, but I don't really want to do that here. Because I don't want to seem like I am pushing anything. But there are a lot of great companies out there. All you have to do is go online and type in bug out bag, and they will come in different varieties and sizes. You can buy them for your home. You can buy them for when you have to grab and go, or you can buy them for your vehicle. And they're all good. And do a little research, and I'm sure you guys will be happy with what you find.
Yep.
So like I mentioned earlier about not stressing out about your kits, this would be a really simple way just to pick one up and have it ready for you whenever. The only thing that I would add to that is, once again, the food and stuff does have expiration dates. Usually these are MREs, meals ready to eat, kind of like the military use, but the date still should be checked every once in a while. So yeah, great question.
Thank you very much. Okay, Becky and Jesse, I'll have you guys keep going just in the essence of time so we can keep moving.
Thank you. Okay, so once we've got our Go Kits and our bug out bags ready, you want to make a plan. And a lot of people get the Go Kit ready, but they forget about the plan. And I want you to think about the hazards that are likely for your area when you're making that plan. Different hazards are going to require you to take different actions. For instance, during a tornado, you're going to want to move to a basement, a storm cellar, an interior room on the lowest floor, something without windows. But for a home fire, everybody needs to evacuate immediately. You have 2 minutes to get out or less. And try to meet at a designated safe meeting place. So this is part of the plan. You want to talk with the people in your household, your neighbors, about how to prepare for and respond to these different hazards. And whether it's where you live, where you work, where you play, whether it's at school, and identify responsibilities for every member of the household and work together as a team. Maybe somebody's in charge of head counts. Maybe somebody is in charge of making sure the pets are taken care of, or someone has to run and go get the go kit. If one of the household members is perhaps in the military or does extended business travel away on a regular basis, how would you compensate for that if something happened when they were gone? And think about creating a really personal support network that can help your plan and provide assistance if a disaster happens. Don't try to rely on just one person or just on yourself. Try to have 3 people in your network. Complete a personal assessment of the functional abilities and possible needs that you might have before, during, and after a disaster. And then make sure and practice. It seems, I don't want to say silly, but it seems like, oh, I don't have to practice, I have it in my head. But in the military, you have basic training for a reason. You learn how to do it by rote memory. So think about what you'll do with your pets. You know, most American Red Cross shelters don't accept pets because of health and safety concerns. We do take in service animals. But there may be a shelter in your area that will take in your pets if you do have to go to a shelter. And then think about the right details for your plan. Can you identify 2 ways to get out of every room in your home? Can you think of 2 ways to get out of your neighborhood or your town? Plan what to do in case you're separated from loved ones during a disaster. Pick places to meet. Now, you think, okay, we'll meet by the tree outside. Okay, that's great in the case of a fire. But if a tornado goes through and you are outside of your neighborhood or you can't return home, how are you going to reunite with your family? How are you going to communicate? Is there some place that you can decide? And don't forget to consider transportation challenges that might be encountered. An important part of your disaster plan is communicating, especially if you and members of the household are not together when the disaster hits. So think ahead of time, think now about that, and then start thinking about what important records you would want to take with you. Are they in a fireproof box? It's a good idea to make copies and put them in your kit. Consider your ID cards, medical cards, lots of other things. At least maybe even take pictures and put them on your phone. If you're without power for an extended period of time, you may have to evacuate. And it's important to have a place to stay. The Red Cross often provides shelters, but maybe you have another place to go. Plan that ahead of time. If there were a disaster, I'm going to go to Aunt Susie's. Sometimes the authorities encourage you to shelter in place and make sure that all your household members are aware of any actions that they should take and what shelter in place might mean. So once you've had your plan in place, do make sure and practice. Here's a communication device. This is a communication card. And we did include an attachment in the invitation. And this is what it is. It's a communication card that folds up and can have emergency numbers on it and contacts, even for young children. Remember, if your cell phone isn't working, you don't have your contact list. So it could be a very important idea to have with you. So print that out and fill that out. If we were doing this live, we could do it together. And then just a reminder about staying informed and how you're going to get information. We talked about the NOAA weather radio. Know how your community does alerts. I know in Oshkosh every Saturday they blow the air horns at noon just to make sure they work. So They do that in the summertime. But understand how your community would let you know how something is going to be happening, and follow the instructions from your authorities. If you're visiting someplace, learn about that area, because you just never know when something might happen. I'm going to skip that part because we're going to talk about that later. Then just a couple pages on emotional health after disaster, because disasters can be very stressful. The good news is that there are things we can do to cope with stress. Remember to identify stress. You may feel physically drained. You may have trouble making decisions or become frustrated. You might be argumentative with family and friends, or sad, lonely, worried. You might experience changes in your appetite or sleep patterns, or you might see these things in other people. You can deal with stress in different ways. We all deal with it in different ways, but try to be sure that you and your loved ones are safe and eat healthy foods. Try to sleep and stay connected with family and friends, and be patient. Set your priorities and think about the tasks that need to be done, and get a plan in place for how you plan to recover. And get information from others, because there's a lot of help out there when you need it. And we do want to pay attention to children also, to help them cope with disasters, help build their confidence, and be supportive. Maybe keep them away from the media so that they're not actually seeing this on television. Try to talk to them about their fears and answer their questions as simply as possible. The Red Cross does have a great little booklet available called Helping Children Cope with Disasters at redcross.org that can provide additional information. So think about those coping skills and the emotional strain that disasters have. And then also think about downloading the Red Cross emergency apps onto your mobile devices. These apps provide you with vital information in the event of a disaster. They're free. They're available at the App Store and on Google Play. They are also available in Spanish. So consider this part of your plan. So once you've got a plan, then don't forget to practice. But now that you have your kits and your practice and you've got a plan, I'm going to turn this back over to Jesse for the winter storms, and I'll let him do that. Take care, Jess.
My favorite. Any questions so far? Queries, jokes. I do love jokes. All
Does
right.
anybody have any questions? You can add them to the chat right now if you'd like. Otherwise, Jesse, we'll keep going. Chat looks empty.
All right. Well, I am here for you if you need me. It's no question that Wisconsin is known for its really, really like coldness and winter storms. If you just look out the window, Wisconsin is weirdly, it's colder than both Alaska and Colorado. I didn't know that until I moved here. But most concerns from winter storms are usually not directly related to the storm in itself. People have traffic accidents on icy roads. People forget how to drive. People have heart attacks while shoveling snow. And people risk getting hypothermia from prolonged exposure to the cold itself. So most of our accidents aren't from the storm itself. It's kind of from us ourselves. So when winter storms and weather events that can bring snow, sleet, and my unfavored freezing rain, they affect communities throughout the United States and all of our territories, actually. Even tropical places like southern cities, Atlanta, Dallas, have been paralyzed by snow and ice. I spent quite a bit of time in Austin, Texas, and I can tell you, if it even thought of snowing, the whole town would just shut down. Sometimes winter storms can become blizzards. Blizzards are usually characterized by just strong winds and blowing snow. These create whiteouts, which are impossible to drive in or do anything in. The extreme cold air accompanies all winter storms and create, excuse me, increases the risk of frostbite and hypothermia. Each year, hundreds of people in the United States are injured or killed by just the exposure to cold. Vehicle accidents, wintry roads, and the improper use of heaters. These are probably one of the most dangerous things for us at the Red Cross, are these space heaters. A lot of our fires every year, I don't know what the numbers are this year, but they range in the thousands. So keeping yourself and members of your household safe during winter weather depends on your understanding of winter storms, staying informed about conditions, and taking appropriate action. Just a small example, about a month ago, I went down to House on the Rock. I've always wanted to go, and the particular day that I set up just happened to be the day of that first big storm that we had in the state. I kid you not, from Oshkosh to the house, there were over 36 cars off the side of the road. I've never seen more tow trucks in my life, and I'm from Colorado. So these conditions can be very treacherous. I think everybody forgets how to drive on the first day of winter. I seriously do. Now, the National Weather Service will issue notices when weather conditions make winter storms more likely. You guys have all seen these. The exact criteria for issuing these notices may differ from state to state, depending on how much snow they get or where they're at. Ours are definitely different from Arizona, for example.
Are you there, Jesse?
Becky, I
Jesse?
think we lost him. I think something happened.
Okay, well, let me take over, and when he comes back, then we'll find it out.
Okay.
So just a quick thing on the winter storm alerts. Again, the advisory, the watch, and the warning. Remember, of course, that the warning needs action. So it's in those other two categories that you begin to actually be prepared. Consider also the wind chill watches and wind chill warnings, because those are also very important too. So at this point, we hope that you've kind of got, taken some thought into what you have planned in preparation. So take a little extra thought into winter storms. Few things that you might want to include: shovels, ice melt, things for securing your home, snow gear, scrapers, sand, chains, extra warm clothing, and more bottled water, a tow rope. So those are some extra things that you might want to put into your kit in the wintertime. And finally, be sure to try to stay informed and listen for updates and special instructions in the wintertime. And this is a little bit of repeat, so I'm going to kind of go through this a little more quickly, but do check your disaster kits before a storm and plan what you would do if you had to stay in for multiple days, especially in rural areas. Bring your pets inside. Make sure you have enough heating fuel, that sort of thing. And again, keep that gas tank filled. Jesse right here would say, this is a beautiful picture because he loves to watch it snow. So your goal is to stay warm, dry, hydrated, and nourished. And the best way to do that is to stay inside. If you lose power or heat, you may need to be evacuated based on your personal needs. Again, if you have a generator, be familiar with operating that generator. Avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. Open a window. Electrocution. Fire. Please, 3 feet, 6 feet? I'm forgetting now. But keep all flammable things away from those generators. If you have to go outside, dress in layers. Please be careful about icy conditions. And of course, frostbite is one of the most dangerous parts of winter. I've had frostbite, and all of these things seem to meet exactly. The signs of frostbite: you feel any numbness or waxiness, discoloration, or your fingers or toes are cold to touch. Try to avoid that wind chill and drink warm fluids. Stay active and dress in layers. Frostbite doesn't ever really go away. To treat frostbite, always get to a warmer place, but try not to rub the skin. Don't pop any blisters. Get rid of that wet clothing, and you can soak in warm water. You can wrap the area with sterile gauze if there are blisters. And of course, seek medical attention if it's serious. And then there's hypothermia, which is even more scary. This is when your body starts to really lose its heat, and your body will become confused, and you'll have difficulty speaking. Your body will be shivering or falling asleep, and the muscles will become very stiff. Try these things. Drink plenty of warm fluids, not caffeine and alcohol, but warm fluids. Stay active. Even if you're sitting in your car or you're sitting at home, stay active. And again, be mindful of the young and the older adults, as they might have even more difficulty staying warm. And so we have to look out for each other. If you think someone has a case of hypothermia, really try to call 911 if you can, and get them to a warmer place. Do not put that hypothermic person into a hot bath or shower. It can be very unsafe. If you're in your vehicle, stay in the car. Display a trouble sign. We don't have antennas anymore, but you can open the window and hang something out of the window to call attention. Use your phone to call for help before it loses its charge. You can run that engine for short periods of time to heat the car, even 10 minutes every hour or 5 minutes every half hour will heat up just enough to keep things safe. Make sure the exhaust pipe is clear behind the car. Do light exercise. Move around in the car. Dance or sing or do something. Huddle with others if you get very cold. You can use the floor mats for extra cover, or newspapers or maps or anything that might help you stay warm and cover. And then after winter storm, I was getting all worked up there. Once the storm has passed, it's important to take care of yourself and your friends and your neighbors, and to just let the storm pass. Wait till the roads are clear before you drive. If your power's been out, when in doubt, throw it out. Don't keep food that has been thawed in the refrigerator too. It doesn't take long. And pay attention to how you're handling the stress of the whole thing. If you have a huge mess, you need to prioritize and make a plan and calm down and take a breath. If you're in an okay place, offer assistance to others if you can. You can protect your home to prevent frozen pipes. You can drain and drain your exterior sprinkler lines. Winterize those hose bibs by closing the inside valve that supplies water to them and draining the lines. You can add insulation around water supply lines. And make sure that your home is properly insulated. It's surprising how many homes are not insulated well. Here it is. Remember, 3 feet from the heat. Make sure that anything that could catch fire, furniture, clothing, curtains, dish towels, 3 feet away at least. And you can consider buying emergency heating equipment, portable generator. But again, if you do that, make sure you know how they operate safely. Be aware of carbon monoxide, electrocution, all of those things. Make sure that snow removal equipment is available and in working condition. We love starting that snow blower. It's just always a task. And then sometimes recovery takes a lot longer than it's expected, but keep in mind that it is recovery and things will move along. You will be able to return to your home or rebuild. Find trusted sources. Work with the Red Cross and FEMA. Watch out for scams and people that are coming in that may call you with information that isn't right. And manage the property damage. If there's evidence of structural damage, have a trained inspector take a look at that before you go back into your home. Watch for power lines that are down. And
Becky,
then
I'm gonna
again,
read a comment too. Make sure that you don't use your oven or your stove to heat the house.
oh, that is such a good one. I'm going to add it to my list. Don't use your stove or oven to heat the house. It's another dangerous thing to do. Document any property damage. Take pictures. And, you know, if you are out working, you know, wear gloves and that sort of thing. But lean on your support network. Others are in the same boat. And it's good to have a support network. Don't try to do it yourself. A few tips for caregivers, because sometimes for older adults, we need caregivers, and your caregivers should understand what they are expected and required to do. They should have some training in first aid, and they should also be able to help you with some of the emotional things that you're dealing with. How will you communicate with that? Your caregiver should have a picture of you so that if they're looking for you, they can show that picture and say, I'm a caregiver for this person. Pictures are important for identification. Once again, I just ask that you think about downloading the Red Cross emergency app and get alerts on your phone. And then try to be Red Cross ready. Have a plan, practice it, develop a preparedness kit, and try to make sure somebody is trained in CPR and first aid. And then just as a reminder, today we learned about being prepared before, during, and after a disaster. And we looked closely at being prepared for winter storms. So remember that a disaster or an emergency that can directly affect your daily life can happen anytime, sometimes without warning. And thankfully, there are things you can do to be prepared and to respond safely. This presentation was designed to give you some practical tips about how to plan and prepare your needs. No two people are the same. So today we tried to look at your abilities and potential conditions that you may need to consider when you prepare your plan. Older adults are an asset in our communities, and will often be looked to for their wisdom and their unique gifts that they offer in a disaster. So I very much hope that you can see yourself as such and are prepared to be useful if an emergency occurs. This guide hopefully will help you to be better prepared and ready for disasters that come. And I want to thank you. The American Red Cross thanks you very much for attending today's workshop, and we hope you found it helpful. Please recommend it to your friends, and thank you for attending the presentation today. It's been wonderful. Stay safe in today's storm, and I'm going to turn it back.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. If you have any questions, now would be a great time. You can unmute yourself. You can turn your cameras on. In the essence of time, if you need to leave, feel free to exit the meeting. Again, we really appreciate you being here today. There will be a follow-up email thanking you for joining us. We will include that card as well, again, in that email. If you have any questions, you may certainly unmute yourself right now. We will stay on for a couple of more minutes. And now, Becky, you can see the chat as well, and lots of thank yous. So we really appreciate it.
Great. Great. I'm just, thank you so much for coming. There is so much information. Please feel free to go to redcross.org and look around. Search for bug out kits if you need information to do that. My big thing is to think ahead. Think ahead what you would really want to have. I want to show you something quick. This is my pillowcase. This is what we do with the children. But in the pillowcase project, we make a pillowcase and the kids put stuff, they talk about what would I have in my go bag in this pillowcase that I want to take with me. So it's a great idea.
That's
so
awesome.
Thank you all.
That's awesome, Becky. I love that idea.
I know.
Yeah, that's our pillowcase project. It's wonderful. Yeah, the kids get to draw on their pillowcase. So it's for the
I
kids.
do have a
You guys
question.
can do it too. Yes.
So in talking about medications and making sure you have some, I keep thinking about how stingy insurance companies are about allowing you to have more than what you need. I mean, can you just get, a 7-day supply of, no?
Probably not. I do think that is a critical thing. I have my pills in a place where they're all together. My mom used to keep them in a little Ziploc suitcase, and and I do a week at a time, so I could grab my weekly pack and go. But it is a problem. You can't really keep an emergency supply, but that's part of that preparedness. Maybe you make your kit and then on the top of the kit, there's a list of last minute things. Grab my pills, grab my keys.
Sure.
Something
Excellent
like
idea. Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Becky, I just wanted to jump in quick and first say thank you for all the great information, but also offer, if you aren't able to pack some pills ahead of time, like Becky mentioned, grabbing them last minute is a great option, but also just keeping a written list of what all of the medications you're taking are is really great to have on hand to take with you.
Yeah. Because if you're at a Red Cross shelter, for instance, and you have a list of your medications, our disaster health service people can help obtain those from someplace that is not affected by the disaster.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Lori, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I just had a comment about the prescription medicine. My husband always says the first day you can refill your prescription, do it, because a lot of times it's based on when the last time you refilled it. So if you refill it right away, they do give you a little grace period. So you could probably always build up a little extra to have in the case of an emergency.
Yeah. I've managed to squirrel away a few extra ones. I don't need blood pressure every day. What the heck? So, yeah. So anything else I can do for you? Any other questions about the Red Cross or preparedness? Think
Becky-
about volunteering. We need volunteers.
Perfect segue.
Becky, if you do hear from Jesse, we hope that he's okay and he didn't have an emergency today other than a technical emergency. So let
He
him know
does have technical issues. I will call him right away.
That sounds good.
So
All right.
Thanks
I
everybody
will
for
just
joining us
need-
today.
I will just need a number of participants from you.
We can get that to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us.